Although the aggregation services that I've shown you, Smashwords and Draft Digital, they do allow you to list indirectly on Kobo through those channels, I actually prefer to list directly on Kobo, and the reason for that is that Kobo gives you much better analytics. The other thing is I think that Kobo, frankly, is probably the only real contender, unless Google decide to up their game. Kobo is the only real contender for Amazon at the moment in terms of an e-reader unit, and Kobo is a channel that I want to support and a channel that I want to embrace. So I think there are many arguments for suggesting that you don't use an aggregator to list on Kobo, but that you go to Kobo directly. Now, when you link on Kobo, you are only being distributed, your book's only being distributed within that Kobo infrastructure. So only Kobo readers are going to see and be able to buy your book. But that's fine. It's such a big marketplace and such a growing marketplace. And many indie authors are saying that Kobo is a great place for selling box sets of books because you don't have the upper cap limit of $9.99 that Amazon has in terms of your royalty levels. With Kobo, you can actually make some decent profit on your box sets. There's a lot of good reasons for listing on Kobo, and that's just one of them. So this is Kobo. You head for Kobo Writing Life. Again, Kobo is very easy to use. You could just upload your Microsoft Word document here and it'll just convert it to the Kobo EPUB file. And of course, Kobo has its own readers. So Kobo readers, if you want to think of it like this, they're dedicated, or they're captive, because they've got to read Kobo books on their device, and many Kobos are being sold, and so therefore you've got this ready-made audience of readers. Now, we all saw what happened with Barnes & Noble and Nook and the changes and the pressures that they're under at the moment, but I think probably Kobo has got a lot more resilience against those changes, and I think that if I were a betting man, Kobo is something that I'd be happy to bet on. I think it's going to be around and it has lots of resilience, and I think, potentially over time it might at least create some form of a challenge to KDP Select or to Amazon and to iBooks. So you list your books through Kobo Writing Life. You see the URL on the screen there. It's as simple as uploading a Microsoft Word document. Now, up until now, I have actually listed my books on Kobo via Draft Digital. Now, the reason for that was, and I'll talk to you more about this when I show you the uploading process in Kobo, I had some formatting issues on Kobo, and I got fed up with trying to solve them. So just so I could get on with writing more books, I actually just said, all right, that's fine. I'm just going to stick them on Draft Digital. At least they'll start selling in Kobo then. So I did have some little formatting problems there. What's changed since I did that is Vellum, which again, you'll have heard me talking about in the other videos. When you format your book in Vellum, Vellum will specifically output a file that you can upload to Kobo, and it's going to look beautiful in Kobo. So rather than me having to mess around with the formatting now, Vellum takes care of all of that for me. So with Vellum now triggering that change, I'm now going to directly list all of my books on Kobo. They will be beautifully formatted in Vellum, and then I'll just upload those Vellum files, which will make it look fantastic. So it was only a little technical problem that stopped me listing directly on Kobo before, but I've always wanted to list directly on Kobo, and I would recommend to you, if you've not listed anywhere else before, that you do that. So if you're listed on Kobo, you can see it on the screen there. You're reaching out to millions of readers in over 190 countries all over the world, and I've heard, again, independent authors saying that they've been selling books in countries I've never even heard of. And that's really, really important for me as an indie author. I want to sell all over the world, and my main territories through Kindle are the USA and the UK. Well, I want to be selling far more widely than that. So that's another reason why I want to be listing on Kobo. Let's move over and take a look at the Kobo site now, and you'll see just how busy that marketplace really is. This is what the reader will see when they come to the Kobo site, and you'll see that we're in all sorts of different languages here, and I'm just happening to look at the crime section. So if we look at the girl on the train, which hopefully everybody watching this video will be aware of, it's just like an Amazon marketplace. You can add to cart, you can buy now, it's got all the words and the reading time and the number of pages and the blurb. It's exactly the same as you would get on the Amazon site. This is a pretty extensive site. If I go to all of the categories here, you'll see that it's very, very extensive in terms of the fiction and the non-fiction that it's got. If you go for fantasy here, take a look at what fantasy books they've got. It's a huge marketplace. So you definitely shouldn't poo-poo Kobo. It is a massive site. A lot of authors sell many books on Kobo. They're doing very well on Kobo. You get great analytics in Kobo, and it's very easy to use. And I think you'll hear this phrase going wide or going narrow. Going narrow is when you put your books just on one outlet. That's usually KDP, Amazon Kindle. If you go wide, you put your books on different channels in the hope that if Kindle were ever to change the commission rules, if they were to start to say, okay, sorry, you're only going to get 10% now, and everybody said, all right, well, we're going to move on, those authors who were only listed in Kindle would be very exposed to any rule changes that Amazon made. Whereas if you go wide, if you list on iBooks, if you list on Kobo, if you list on Kindle as well and all the other outlets, it just means you're a little bit more resilient if Amazon ever decide to change the rules. So I really would recommend listing directly on Kobo. I think it will really pay dividends in the longer term.